Nobody. All are equal in that sense. Equal in what Robert Long calls equal in authority, equality of authority. I can't boss you around, you can't boss me around. Now, I'm not talking about contractual relations that we voluntarily go into. I'm not talking about outside the context of a contract where maybe I go to work for you, and of course part of that is I do things that you assign to me. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about outside of contract where we're just passing each other on the street. You can't tell me what to do, and I can't tell you what to do. That's where the initial respect for life, liberty, and property, that's where it comes from, that's what it's about. And in that sense, we are equal. And Long presses this and says, we libertarians, we liberals, should not be so quick to give up the idea of equality. I mean, there are grounds for attack, there are respects in which we should attack it, and I've already discussed those. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a moral authority to claiming that in being anti-elite, we are pro-equality in the sense of equality of authority in this Lockean, Jeffersonian sense. And so we need not shy away from this. And I think Bastiat is saying that to the legislator or the aspiring legislator who says put me in office and I'm going to reshape everybody. Not only by moving money around, but by imposing various rules, what we call the nanny state, imposing all kinds of rules for your own good, of course, drug laws, this and that. That's an anti-egalitarian position, because I am saying, as the legislator, as the would-be ruler, I am saying, I have some authority that you can't possibly have. I'm going to tell you you can't do things because it's for your own good. But guess what? You're not allowed to tell me I can't do some things that are for my own good. So there's an inequality there. There's an elitism which conflicts with liberalism. So I see that I see it in Bastiat. I don't think I'm reading too far into him. I think it is right there. Now, President Obama a couple of weeks ago, announced that he was going to give a speech to the school children of America. You probably saw this in the news. And this was a big ruckus for several days. America does this, right? Something comes along, everybody's upset. And it's all that gets talked about for 3 days, and then, of course, it fades away. And we go on to the next thing, like what Paris Hilton is doing or something. Something like that. Or Michael Jackson, or, important things. So he announces he's going to give a speech. And, of course, the conservatives, who I have some things in common with, but some things I don't, got very upset about this and claimed this was going to be indoctrination, it was going to be subtle, subliminal messages about socialism, and maybe try to sell the children on the health care plan and go home and tell your parents it's a good thing. And of course, the Department of Education in the U.S. Made this, kind of gave the conservatives stuff to use for the conspiracy theory, because they wrote up assignments and for teachers, and they said, well, here's a good thing to have your kids do. Have them write a letter to the president asking, how can I help you? And they said, put quotations from President Obama on the wall from his speeches on education. Put that on the wall. This is what they were telling the teachers to do. Well, it became embarrassing when this came out. And they said, someone in the White House said to someone in the Department of Education, what are you, crazy? We got to be a little more subtle than this. Don't put on the wall quotations from the president. So they pulled back on that stuff. But he did give the speech. Now, you can read the speech. You can find it online. It's at the one. And the funny thing is, when the conservative critics who got so upset read the speech in advance, like the day before, I think for the most part, the leaders at least, said, okay, that's not so bad. All right, fine. We kind of take back what we were saying. He's not talking about socialism. The word, Karl Marx's name did not appear in the speech. He didn't say, support my health care plan. And so they thought it was okay. Because they said, after all, he talked about self-responsibility. And they decided that was the end of that. Well, I read the speech, and I was wondering what has gotten into the heads of these conservative leaders that this was okay with them. Because I never thought he was going to go on and talk about socialism. First of all, I don't think he's a socialist. I think he's something just as bad. He's an interventionist, but he doesn't want to nationalize all of industry. He's not talking about the Communist Manifesto nationalizing the fact, except for GM Chrysler, that's all he wants to nationalize. You know, just two things. What are you complaining about here? Just two big corporations. And the banks too. Okay, and the insurance companies. A few things, but no. But what he said was, I think, was much worse than making an overt appeal to any kind of socialist economic policy. He told the kids that they should make something of themselves for the national interest. He said, don't give up on yourself, because if you give up on yourself, guess what? You're giving up on your country. This was to me, a dangerous collectivist message that the conservatives missed totally. They didn't mind that, and it makes me wonder. Maybe they don't think there's anything wrong with that message. But to me, that sounds like something out of Mussolini's Italy. That you little children you are the property of the nation. You owe it to the nation. This almost begins to sound like the folk, you owe it to the people. To develop yourselves, develop your skills, become productive. Now, of course, parents should teach their children to develop themselves, take responsibility, develop your talents, your self-realization, all that stuff. But not because it's for the good of the nation. That's collectivism. And unfortunately, I think too many conservatives in the U.S. thought there was nothing wrong with that message. And that's what bothered me more than anything at all. I mean, I don't think the president should speak to the school children, because to me that's the 1984 idea of Big Brother, the sense that the president embodies the nation. To me, this is an offensive idea. It's an un-American. I think it's an un-American idea. I mean, if you look at the Constitution, and I think there's lots of things wrong with the Constitution, but if you look at the Constitution, the president is merely the head of the executive branch. He's the chief executive. He's there to make sure the laws are enforced. He doesn't even make the laws, right? The Congress makes the laws. He's a functionary. He's not the embodiment of the nation. We've turned the president into an emperor, where he embodies the nation. Anytime anything happens, he has to say something. And Michael Jackson dies, he's got to speak for all of us to say what a tragedy this is. Or if something happens anywhere, a tsunami somewhere, which of course is terrible, and Americans always give tons of money voluntarily to help people that are caught in natural disasters, but still the president has to speak for us. And I think Americans should be offended and say, no, you don't speak for us, we speak for ourselves, thank you. I can speak. I'll speak through my charities, or my churches, or my community, or whatever it is. I don't need you. We just elected you to, make sure you run the executive branch. So go back and do that. That should keep you busy enough. Not speak for me. And I think Bastiat would, have seen that coming and would be complaining about that sort of thing. Now, I have to watch the time, I know. How far do we want to go? We want to leave time for questions, and I know the schedule's way off. I don't want to make it worse. Let me just see if there was two things more I wanted to say. I think he would not have been surprised by the housing crisis and the financial crisis, because this was the result of false philanthropy. As I explained to a group last night, we spoke to a very good group, had a great time. If you look at what, in my view, got this whole world financial turmoil going, was housing policy in the U.S. combined with monetary policy and other sort of things. But what was the whole point? Well, the excuse given to the public was, we need to make it possible for everybody in the U.S. to own a house.